Well, it's 2025, so Happy New Year to everybody. I'm sure everyone gets tired of me saying I've been slacking on videos, but I start every video with saying I'm slacking on videos because I have, and I feel bad. So, anyway, we're back, and here's another update for you guys. I feel like iPhones have like the best cameras now, and every time I watch my YouTube videos on my phone, it looks great, looks cool. But when I watch it on a TV, the quality just looks terrible to me. So I'm trying this video on my iPhone. So if it turns out terrible, I'm sorry, blame my iPhone. But I wanted to kind of give it a try and see if it's better or not. I probably should have gone back and watched the last video to figure out where we left off with the Ranger, but I'm gonna kind of cover what I think we left off on. Sorry if it gets repetitive. So starting in the back of the car, like I talked about before, this truck had two vertical spares housed in the back, and then the fuel cell was in that tray right there that you can see. But we wanted to move the new fuel cell behind the axle, get some weight further back, and then it's going to have one horizontal spare laid down over the rear. So we went ahead and added all the structure down here. This one tube was already here, and so we kind of just built off of that. That set a pretty good height for the fuel cell. Wow, the iPhone with all the different lenses just constantly wants to focus. So we built the fuel cell cradle off of that one existing tube and then just basically did everything else off of that. Try to get some little style points in by doing like a box structure on the front side of this. Instead of doing just a tube from here down, I figured it's a little more weld surface area by doing a little box piece right there. Here on the side, we just have some flat tabs that have nut zerts in them, 3/8 nut zerts that I got to go get some hardware for. But that ties down to the top of the fuel cell and then just gets held in by the cradle on the bottom. Moving forward, I think we had the lower links on the rear axle. I think I had the truss done and the upper pivot box done, but now we got the shock mounts done. The customer really wanted to maintain that structure, that tubing right there on the bottom. So we kind of left that there and then just built off of that. What we ended up doing, I'll show some pictures from when I was constructing these. That way you get an idea. The customer really wanted to maintain the look of the original shock mount that was on this truck and wanted to leave that tube. But the original one came up from the frame, bent right here, and then dove back into this tube. But there was no way to leave that bottom section and do this tube because we would have had to sleeve that and then land the new tube on that, and then there was going to be no way to like slide it down and get this notch into place at the same time. So either way, we were going to have to do 1, 2, 3, 4 tubes with a miter junction in between all of those. So we decided to ditch the tube going this way and just do a plate structure for the whole shock mount. And then we did 1, 2, 3 tubes mitered in that junction right there. So this top plate actually goes over top of this tube, and then this tube lands on top of this plate and then is welded all the way around. That way the top plane of this plate structure acts as a partition in between this tube and this tube, just making that junction a lot stronger. And then we have the tube coming from the B pillar diving into the side of that, just tying that whole thing in together. And then you can see the weld marks on the outside. Did a spreader plate inside of here to maintain the spacing for the shock pivots. Since this is such a long piece, what'll tend to happen is these will close in and then you'll lose your spacing for your shocks. So the last thing we are gonna do back here as far as tubing structure goes is we are gonna land one more tube from that miter junction into the other one, just tying those two across that way. But we're gonna leave that off for now until we get everything back here done, because the customer did talk about putting like a toolbox in the existing tray that's right here. So we just wanna make sure we get all that figured out before we land a tube in there and then it ends up being in the way of stuff. We got one of the upper links welded. We just gotta, that's still a mock-up link laying on the floor right there. We just gotta get the other link made. And then we're still waiting on the customer to bring bump stops, but the bump stops are gonna go in, and right now we have the travel basically to where the axle is just bumped out on the frame, but then we'll put the bump in there and get a pad spaced up just a little bit to where we have proper bump clearance. And as it sits right now, from frame to full droop, we have 24 inches of travel. So by the time we get it bumped and strapped and everything, we'll end up probably somewhere around 22, 23. So that should be plenty. Nothing has changed inside the truck, so we won't even cover that. But we got the drivetrain mounted. We got the motor mounts made. He tried to get some from AutoFab, but we got the motor plates and they didn't line up to the bolt holes. So we ended up just making our own motor plates, tab with the poly bushing in there, and then the new motor mount just going to the chassis cross member right there. We played around with where we wanted to put the motor. Steering linkage is gonna have to kick over to go around the stock manifold because he wants to use the stock exhaust manifold on this. Got the radiator mounted up front. Just did a simple 3 tabs on the front with an aluminum piece that is tied into the actual radiator with nut zerts. And then the bottom just got like a cradle piece welded to a new chassis tube that we put in going across the front. I feel like my iPhone is way more shaky than the GoPro was, so sorry about that. It's probably the crappy mount that I've got it on. So that's about it for the Ranger. The customer came by today and we talked about a handful of other stuff that we're gonna get knocked out for him. When we originally got the truck, he gave me a list of stuff, which we're pretty much done with all of that. I gotta put some final hardware on the link mounts and stuff, and then do the upper link, and gotta do a power steering pump mount. But other than that, we're kind of finished with the stuff that he had originally given us. So he gave me a whole bunch of other stuff to knock out, like mounting the trans cooler, mounting the shifter, gas pedal, brake pedal, remote reservoir mount for the brakes, power steering reservoir, fuel pump and fuel filters. That way he can get all that stuff plumbed. And then we're gonna do seat tabs. And that's about it for now. So we're gonna get that stuff knocked out next. So I think that'll kind of put us at the next time we do an update on this truck. Right before it leaves, he's gonna pick it up for a little while, and then it'll probably come back to us for the front shock mounts and all the other stuff in this build. So stay tuned for that. On to the JK. So I hadn't really talked much about this JK, but I had on the rear originally a 3-link that had a super short track bar, and The axle literally, as it went through its travel, swung over like a foot and was causing all kinds of issues. The pinion was hitting on the gas tank skid, and the front was just all over the place. The shocks were kind of hitting on the shock tower a little bit, and just wasn't really working all that great. So we decided, or he decided, that he wanted to just do a new 4-link. It's dual triangulated 4-link. It's Motobilt's kit. It's Motobilt skid. Wow. It's a Motobilt kit. I guess this kit is like brand new. Motobilt just released it. So it's the front and rear triangulated 4-link that has a new cross member for the front. Does a new cross member. You cut out the factory cross member right behind where the drive shaft comes out, and gives you a new freaking gnarly, crazy boxed fabricated cross member that's super cool. And then this monstrous skid, I think is like 1/4 inch thick, super beefy, super heavy. Makes me really want a transmission jack. But anyway, I really like their kit. It goes on super nice. Everything is very nicely welded from Motobilt. One thing that drives me nuts about this shop is once the sun goes down, it is super dark in here. I put some high bay lights, just 2, and then those are 2 just crappy lights that I hung over there. But I really need some more lighting on this side. So I'll grab this guy and see if this helps at all. That way you guys can actually see what I'm looking at. But anyway, so this kit is super nice. Motobilt, like I was saying, has really nice welds on everything. Looks very quality. And so we bought the chassis side link mounts with the skid and everything. And then we are gonna build the axle side parts. Here's a look at the back. Here's a look at the back link mounts. You got your upper link mounts up there with 2 optional bolt holes. And then the cross member, big fabricated cross member that the link boxes tie into. So that is super nice. Skid plate just bolts into the bottom of the cross member on the front and rear, and then tucks up nice to the frame on each side. That way you have a full closed in area up there. Don't have to worry about anything, rocks and all that getting hung up on that. We did have to cut the exhaust out because the muffler, this Jeep was already built on 1-tons and 40s and all that. So it already had the aftermarket exhaust because the stock one is back here. So it had an aftermarket muffler put in right here. And then we had to cut that out. That way all those link boxes can go right there. So we'll end up redoing the exhaust on that once that's all set and done. But right now we're just working on getting all that stuff in. I got to get all this welded to the frame. And then on the rear axle, we still got to get the lower link mounts, shock mounts, and those parts cut off. But then I'm not going to do a full width truss on the back because there's really no reason. This is a Dynatrac 80, so it's got the 4-inch axle tubes, and I don't really see a point in doing a full width truss. So what I'm going to do is just a bridge made out of 3/8 material. I'll do 1/4 inch on the front and back side, and then I'm going to tie the back of this bridge down into this part, just holding it secure this way. But that'll be the landing spot of our 2 upper links on top of that, and then lower links on bottom, shock mounts, all that good stuff will get done. So that is the start of the rear axle. And then the front axle, we're gonna do a full width truss over the front just because I don't see it looking very good if I do just a bridge with one link and then one link off of the axle tube. I think it'll look better just with a full width truss. We got both upper links. We got to grind that down just a little bit more. Both upper links cut off of this and get ready for making the top part, and then get this thing back in there. And last but not least, we're not even going to talk about it because no, I haven't even touched the buggy, the low budget buggy, the loaner low budget buggy that never gets worked on because I don't have time. So that is that. And last thing I worked on, I'm so proud of this. I finally have a sheet metal rack, sheet metal cart. So I can push my sheet metal from over there where it was piling up in front of the table, couldn't even get to the table. I now can move it in and out of this space. So I'm super happy I finally knocked that out. I feel like just a couple months ago, I was super excited about having this shop and space and everything. And the more I work in here, the more I'm just like, I feel like this is way too tiny of a space for how much crap I have. I really need to get my buggy just back to the house or something and out of here. But we've got another project over there that we need to start working on because he's probably wondering about it too. Probably watching this video like, when are you going to start working on my car? But I've already talked about that a little bit. It's coming back really soon. I actually cleaned it up again the other day, and it's back on the chassis table, my makeshift chassis table, and we're going to start working on it here pretty soon. So again, stay tuned for that. Other than that, hope you guys enjoyed this little update, and what was I gonna say? And thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to keep it classy, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.